Have you ever been left behind? What does it feel like to be left behind? David was left behind. His 3 brothers was sent to war. They were fighting in the battle, and this 17, 18-year-old strapping, young, full of energy, virile young man was left behind to tend to the sheep and to his elderly daddy. Interesting, right? That's today's reading. What does it feel like to be left behind? I'm Elizabeth Inman. This is our daily Bible study, Dream Big Today Ministries. Oh, there's so many lessons in the story of David. So many lessons. I'm so excited. The problem is how do I get it all condensed down into 30 minutes worth of visiting with you? Be sure and put your prayer requests in. We've already talked about prayer requests this morning already. She's got, 5, 6, 7 lines of prayer requests already down. We want to pray with you. We want to believe with you. We want to stand with you. We want to take authority with you over your prayer requests. And then we love to write down praise reports. So thank you for joining in. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for deciding to make God's word important in your life. The lessons that we learn. Thank you for helping us give away Bibles. I think we've shipped out change in the next few months for the better, I hope. We're getting on top of the technology things. You're going to see a few change in the next few months for the better, I hope. We're go to the Bible. We're reading about David and Saul. And, why does the army have, but he's all intimidated. Now, David's dad. And on top of all of that, anything they didn't think they couldn't do. No job they couldn't learn. No task too big for them to do. But David was left behind. And when he was tending sheep, he was out there all alone. The only person he had to talk to was God. So I can only imagine. The Bible doesn't really give us any indication that he had any attitude about it at all. But did I say I raised 4 boys into highly successful grown men? 2 of those boys were Eagle Scouts. All 4 boys have college degrees. One's an engineer for a major engineering firm in the Houston area. One is a physician's assistant, neurosurgery, I believe, physician's assistant. One of them owns his own business, over $1 million heat and air business. And the other one is in business with me. Being left behind while the others go to war to fight for their country, to fight for their king, to fight for their beliefs. Yeah, I have a feeling David had some thoughts as he was out there. And we've been talking nonstop about how things are not as they seem. Things are not as they seem. I'm sure it seemed like he was left behind. I'm sure it seemed like the things he was doing didn't really matter much. Or that what he was doing, anybody could do. However, what seemed like mundane, boring, I'm out here 24 hours a day with these sheep and they do the same old things. Some events took place that, in God's eyes, was preparing David for battle. In David's mind, more than likely, up until the time of our reading today, he just did it because that's what shepherds do. When the animals come to attack the sheep, he killed them. But he killed them with his bare hands. And I know in prior years, Debbie sent me this amazing article this morning about the roar of a lion. And this article says that the roar of a lion can be heard 5 miles away. I know we just recently went to, where did we go? Was it Colorado Springs Zoo? And it's a big zoo sprawled out in the mountains, and we could hear that lion roaring all over that zoo. It was, it's such a sound. And here in this reading, David said, as he's trying to convince Saul that he can take out Goliath, and everybody's making fun of him. I mean, his brothers get mad at him, telling him he's full of pride. You know, Moses, was a shepherd. David was a shepherd. Joseph was accused of pride. David's accused of pride by his brothers. The parallels in here. Saul tells him he's just a kid. You can't do this. And he tells Saul, I've been taking care of my father's sheep and goats. When a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and I rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and I club it to death. Oh my goodness, that has ministered to me. When the enemy comes at us, catch it by the jaw and club it to death. That's what we ought to do. That's the authority. And see, things are not as they seem. It just seemed like David was just a shepherd. He's just doing what shepherds do. Except that he caught these animals with his bare hands. And he ripped the jaw from a lion. And he was in training from God himself. See, let's think about Jesse for a moment. Jesse's old. We don't know a whole lot about Jesse other than his offspring led to Jesus being born. But we know in this story that he was old. And we know, or we can read between the lines, that he's got concern for his sons that are in battle. We know that we didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have television. The only way he could get word about those 3 sons was to send David in for messages from them. And that's what he did. It may be out of fear because there was a battle going on. It indicates in today's reading that he had sent David in before to get messages. That's how he kept up to date with what was going on with the 3 older brothers. And so he tells him to do it again today. Things are not as they seem. I wonder, as I'm entering a new season in my life, thinking about what life looks like in my 60s and 70s rather than 30s and 40s, what some of the thoughts Jesse was having. Because the Bible emphasizes that he was elderly, that he had grown older. It's easy to start thinking, oh, there's no ministry for me. God can't use me. I'm too old. There's nothing I can do. I mean, Jesse didn't make the trip himself. I mean, there was a battle going on. And yet, things are not as they seem. Oh, God wasn't finished with Jesse. Jesse is the one that had it in him to make the assignments. The 3 older boys went to battle. David was kept behind as a shepherd, but kept behind as a warrior in training. See, we can look at it from 2 different perspectives. We do look at it from 2 different perspectives. I set before you this day blessings and curses, life and death. I can always see the lack. I don't have enough. God didn't answer me quick enough. I'm not getting the prayers I wanted, or my desires aren't being fulfilled, or what can make that? Oh, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. Oh my goodness, I'm the most blessed woman on the planet. And I can list my blessings. I can fill out my grateful journal morning and night, or I can choose to gripe and complain, murmur and complain, just as the Israelites did. And we see God's response to the murmuring and complaining. It makes him angry. I mean, there isn't anything like a child that you bend over backwards for, that you get up and you go to work every single day, you toil, you'd much rather sleep in, or you've got other things that needs to be done. I mean, the air conditioners need fixed, the pavilion needs to have new carpentry work done, the yard needs to be mowed, the dishes need to be, there's all kinds of things that needs to be done. Oh, I got to go to work. I've got children I've got to provide for. Mom, can I have $50 to go to the game and take my girl out? And then their attitude is flippant. It's like, I'm entitled to that. I deserve that. No thank yous, no sense of gratitude. It's just an endless supply of gimme. How inclined are you to want to continue to bless them and to just dole out the money or hand the car keys over? Or I just can't. God is so good, and he is so endless in his love and his patience and his enduring spirit towards us, because we are the most spoiled, rotten brats on the planet. I mean, there was a point in time in my life when I realized the only time I ever prayed to him was to ask for something. The only prayers I had was, I'm asking for something. I mean, that's just like that spoiled teenager. Hand over the keys, Mom. I need $50. I need more gas money. I need new shoes. I don't want those shoes. I want these shoes that cost 3 times what those shoes would cost. And the list goes on and on. Things are not as they seem. It seemed as though Jesse was past his prime. It seemed as though there wasn't anything left for Jesse to do for the Lord, except that what was in him, what came to him, was to send David to the sheep and to send the others to battle. And then it came to him to send David to check on them. I mean, it just seems like a random day, a regular day, ordinary day, right? But it didn't end up such an ordinary day. I mean, are we looking for God in everything we do? Are we operating from a position of being spirit-filled, his spirit in us, and everything we do comes from that? Or are we just living ordinary lives? Just, doesn't mean anything. There's nothing significant in what I do every day, even getting up, going to work, going out tending the sheep. It's no big deal. It ended up being everything in this story. And this is the foundation for more stories that we're going to continue to read. Because you know what? That solitude that David lived in, he had nobody else to talk to but God. That solitude would break most of us, because we don't live in a solitude world. Even the introverts, even the loners, have that little phone in their hand going nonstop all the time in today's world. David didn't have a cell phone that he could scroll around, or a tablet that he could play video games on. That kind of solitude was preparation for the call that God had on David's life. And the first time he ripped the jaw from that lion that was attacking the sheep, that was the very livelihood of their family, it grew in him that he was created for more. And by the time he stood before this king that knew him, the king who had already brought him in to play the harp for him. But we got to remember several things. The king was under an evil spirit when he brought him in. Maybe that's why he didn't recognize him. But remember, David's been running around telling everybody, who is this guy? How dare him speak against God's chosen people? Who does this giant think he is? Enough so, David's done this enough so that the rumors of this gets back to the king, and the king calls him in. What is it you're saying? And then David tells him, I'll kill him. Send me in, that invincible little 18-year-old teenager. I'll kill him. Things are not as they seem. You think God doesn't have a plan and a purpose for you? You think he's not using you right where you're at? Oh yeah, he is. There's so many lessons in this, I can't even get them all out. There's more. I mean, there's so many things about this story. You know, Saul's life in and of itself is evidence that someone can actually thwart the plan that God has for him. We're given free choice. We can choose God or not choose God. We can reject him. We can reject the plan. God's showing us the evidence through the life of Saul, but also David. David had a choice. He didn't have to go kill the Goliath. Why was he able to kill Goliath? Was it his brute strength? Was it all the years of training he had? He had no formal training of warfare. He had training, we've already talked about that, but no formal training of warfare. You know why he was able to kill Goliath? His heart. His heart. And it wasn't just his heart, it was the attitude of his heart. He had a heart that was sensitive to God. And all of those hours and hours alone, morning, noon, and night, with the sheep, put a sensitivity that was unlike anybody else's in that army, including Saul. He became fearless as he was out there tending the sheep. Those lions didn't intimidate him. Those bears didn't intimidate him. The snakes, all of the things that normally threaten the flock, none of that intimidated David, to the tune that when he faced a giant, he was fearless. He didn't see things the way others saw him. See, David was running around. They were on the front lines with this giant taunting them. And everybody was scared. They were hiding from Goliath. Not David. He's going from person to person saying, how dare him? How dare him speak like that against God's chosen people? David didn't see it the same way everybody else saw it. Things were not as they seemed. They looked outward. David looked at the heart. He saw Goliath's heart, and he saw the evil that was in Goliath's heart, and he knew God wasn't going to honor that. David looked at himself the way God saw himself. David knew his identity. He knew God had given him every gifting that he possessed. He knew the source of anything that was good inside of David. He gave God credit for all of it. But it was also the way he saw himself. How do you see yourself? Just doing an inventory of your self-talk. What words do you use to describe yourself? And then get a pencil and paper and ask God, write down those words. What words do you use to describe yourself? Write them down. And then ask God, what do you want me to know about that? And write down what you hear. And then ask God, how do you describe me? David knew how God saw himself, and he chose to be in alignment with God and to see himself the same way, as a mighty warrior for God. He saw things the way God saw things, and Goliath's heart wasn't right with God. So David already had him beat. I mean, just the attitude of his heart made the odds against Goliath. It wasn't even a fair fight. It wasn't even a fair fight. Goliath didn't stand a chance. Is that how we see that story? Every time we read it? Do we feel sorry for Goliath? Because, oh man, you don't even know what you're up against. See, that was David's attitude. Why is that not our attitude when we read it? That's an indication right there that you don't see yourself the way God sees you. And I'm speaking to me. Still today, even with the revelation of what I get about this story, the odds weren't even. The odds were not even. Goliath was so outnumbered because of the attitude of David's heart. He didn't even see it coming. Things are not as they seem. Things are not as they seem. Lord, show us our heart. We don't even know our own hearts. Take away the negative self-talk. And then ask yourself, use that pencil and paper and say, God, how do you see me? How do you see me? And be transformed. Be that 18-year-old David who everybody saw as a failure, as an impossible situation. No way can you kill that giant. Go back and tend your sheep. We limit ourselves. We limit God. We limit the God in us. And few of us will ever, if any of us, will ever fulfill our full potential in God. Because we limit ourselves and we limit our God. What a story we're reading. And what a setup. The setup of the relationship that's going to move forward between David and Saul. Saul acts as though he doesn't know him. You know what? David got a lot of notoriety. Saul's the king, and Saul's not getting the attention. Saul was afraid. Saul put out a fleece. Anybody that can kill him, look at what all I'm going to give you. Because Saul wasn't going to face him. Saul was a big man. If you remember, he was head and shoulders above all the others when he got selected to be king. And even him with his stature, he was afraid. And here comes a boy with confidence, speaking it. Saul fully expected him to be killed. And when he wasn't killed, he was hailed as a hero, and Saul didn't like it. Perhaps Saul really did know who David was, and perhaps Saul sent the man out to go see who is this David and who's his father, because he knew that the man in his army that he sent, go find out who this David's daddy is, would go out to the men saying, the king wants to know who he is. And it would diminish the standing of David among the men. Oh, no whole nother reason why maybe Saul acted as though he didn't know him. Because he's had him into his private chambers playing the harp for him when the demons torment Saul prior to this. And yet he's acting as though he doesn't know him. Probably a lot of reasons why he acted as though he didn't know him. Because the jealousy has already started. Jealousy will kill you. Yeah. There's more. I've got more notes. I got to quit because John's one of my favorite, if not the favorite book of the Bible for me, and I'm talking very little about it. For I say only what I've heard, John 8, verse 26. Lessons for us. For I say only what I've heard him, the one who sent me, and he is completely truthful. Verse 28. When you have lifted up the Son of Man on the cross, then you will understand that I am he. I do nothing on my own. See, things are not as they seem. It looked as though they had crucified who they thought was the Messiah, who they thought was the Savior. The whole story didn't go the way they thought. They'd been prophesying about the Messiah for thousands of years. And when he came, it wasn't what they thought. It didn't look the way they thought. Oh, he was born in a manger. He grew up as a man. He was a carpenter. He was a carpenter's son. He couldn't even perform miracles in his own hometown. It didn't look like what they thought it was going to look like. Oh, I hope we get it. That when that phone call comes and it's like, what? Or that diagnosis comes, we want to, we've got people on our prayer list already. We've already declared at this table, oh no, Kadri's son's going to the doctor today. We already know the outcome of that. Our attitude in our heart is, we already know. Our attitude towards this is the reason you let us pray for you, because the attitude of our heart is the healing took place on that cross that Jesus just talked about. When he was lifted to that cross, he was beat for our transgressions. He took the stripes for our iniquities and for our infirmities and by his stripes we were healed. Past tense. Healing is ours. Our attitude is we pray and God answers. That's our attitude. That's our faith. Yeah. I do nothing on my own but say only what the Father taught me. And the one who sent me is with me. He has not deserted me, for I always do what pleases him. And in Psalms 111, and I will thank the Lord with all my heart in advance for those prayer requests that we've written down. All who delight in him should ponder them. Everything he does reveals his glory and majesty. That's why we should be full of gratitude, saying our gratefuls over and over and over again. His righteousness never fails. He causes us to remember his wonderful works. He causes us to remember. So if we got bad memories, we have the right to ask him to take those bad memories. If I wake up and I've got a bad dream that I know is not from him, I immediately say, Father, take the memory of that dream away from me. But I've asked him to take the memory of what happened to me when I was a young girl away from me. I've asked him